Hello, I'm Simon Hedley, and welcome to today's episode of Pause, Stop, Reset. Today, I'm joined by the one and only David B Horne. David's a name you may not know, but he has been behind the scenes for some time doing really good things. Now, I'm going to read this out. He is the founder of Add, Then Multiply, a trusted advisor to entrepreneurs looking to scale with intention. He's worked with businesses on raising capital, actually over $100 million worth, building solid foundations, multiplying consistent long-term growth. And more than that, he's a good guy, a fellow chartered accountant, and many of my good friends, he's been their guy behind the scenes. I've known it, hadn't had this chat with him before. So today, David, we're going to go deep a little bit, hopefully. Welcome to Pause, Stop, Reset.
Thank you, Simon. Delighted to be here.
And I'm generally nervous and excited. I was texting you this morning. I'm like kicking myself that I've been done this 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And it's one of those things where you get these people, these sort of strategic alchemists, as I call them, helping these ecosystems, but often they don't actually know each other or know all the details. It's kind of fun. So let us begin at the beginning. Who is David and what is he focused on today?
Who is David? Well, I mean, I was born in Vancouver, hence the accent for your UK audience.
There isn't an accent. It's gone. It's gone, David.
There we go. Anyway, I was born in Vancouver. Trained as a chartered accountant with Price Waterhouse before the merger, now PwC. Moved with PwC from Vancouver to Zurich, Switzerland when I qualified. Spent 2 years with them, then got the proverbial job offer you can't refuse. And at the ripe old age of 27, I was the number 2 finance guy in the Swiss subsidiary of an American tech business. We had $500 million of turnover in Switzerland.
Wow.
So right place, right time. Moved with them to London in 1993, stayed with big companies for a while, then moved to medium-sized companies. I was with 2 AIM-listed businesses, so AIM being the junior market on the London Stock Exchange. Got into fundraising, got into M&A, and then decided it was time for me to go out on my own and launch my own business at the end of 2010. So 16 years now. We do 2 things. We put fractional finance teams into entrepreneurial companies, and we work with them on scale-up strategies using my FACE methodology: fund, acquire, consolidate, and exit.
I love it. And I'm just curious, were you like the financial director for those companies when you were sort of working with those AIM companies, or were you more?
I was, yes. No, yeah. No, I was the CFO and a main board director, yes.
And it's really interesting. Growing up, I don't think I'd realized what an FD was. One of my uncles ended up going from KPMG to being a group FD, and I understand slightly more, but still, it's one of those interesting roles that unless you know what they do, it isn't being the bookkeeper. It's a very different job.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And looking for the right CFO, the right CFD, is so essential, and they're so hard to find because the good ones tend to be retired. Have you noticed that already? Like they've made money and they're handled. And so they're a running joke with me. Some of the marketers, by the way.
I love what I do, so I have no intention of retiring.
Yeah, but you're not working full-time 24/7 as the group FD at a group. You know what I mean? So that's where we're on the same page there. Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of the things, the transitions from Vancouver to Zurich to these things. What have been your biggest reset moments? I'm a big believer in pause, stop, reset philosophy. Pausing, let's just pause, go back to it. Stopping is stop that. Reset is brand new chapter, brand new day. So maybe moving across the world, but what have been your big resets, do you think, looking back on your life?
Well, I mean, the first one would have been while I was with Price Waterhouse in Vancouver, and I sat my accounting final exams and I failed them the first time. It's the only exams I've ever failed in my life. And it was I was gutted when it happened. But when I look back on it, I think it was actually a really good thing because I was a very cocky, brash young kid. And it taught me a little bit about, hang on, the world's not your oyster and you got to work damn hard to achieve. And I knuckled down, revised, and passed my exams the second year and then got the transfer to Switzerland. So, that was a bit of a pause and a reset.
Yeah.
The other big one, which I didn't mention, when I left my last PLC role with the public company, I actually had a midlife crisis and tried to launch a wine business, which was tremendous fun. I love.
I'm not
wine.
laughing at the midlife crisis. It's the way it says, I launched a wine business that made $1 billion. It's the next bit of the story. It's like, no.
No, I burned about $100,000 in savings though. But I look back on it now and it was like I needed to do something. I needed a clean break from what I was doing. I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't done that.
Yeah, those are those expensive lessons are the good ones, and actually
Correct.
doing the work and realizing the theory of the lovely books we could mention and actually living it is not quite the same thing.
Yeah.
And you and I know probably with retrospect, it could have been one conversation, everything could have been different. It's like,
Absolutely.
unless it was bad wine in the first place, that's a whole other conversation, right?
Life's too short to drink bad wine.
Yeah, my mentor Graham, we get on very, very well. He's a sommelier, super smart guy, retired off to Cyprus, and he has a similar philosophy. And often it's not the expensive wine, right? It can be the €8 bottle, but knowing which ones and
knowing which one exactly.
And I'm curious on that PwC exam. For those that aren't knowing, you pass your degree, you go join a big accountancy firm. They go, right, you've got exams for 3 more years, and you go, nobody told me about this one. Was it the failing for a data error? Was it a failing on passing the exam error? Because when I did it, it was very much you had to learn how to pass the exams, which was not the knowledge, but how to actually do that.
100%. 100%. Yes. And I remember, one of the standard questions at the end of the, that you'd get a question that was a page or 2 pages long, and then it would say, write a memo to the partner.
Yeah.
And you had to figure out what were the right issues. And I didn't get it right the first time, but I got it right the second time.
And it gets worse. You got 1 point for writing the word memo. You got a point for writing to partner, from thing, subject, date. That was 5 points. Yeah. So for those of us that it was very strange. And it's partly why I sort of laugh. The boring accountants, there's an understanding that's different in the chartered accountancy world, because it isn't what it seems like it is on the outside. And I'm with you. I failed an English exam when I was 12 as an Englishman, and that was like, huh? How's that happen? So no, I love that you've had that and how you are about it.
But I had a great learning from that, and I use now when I'm working with AI on anything that's technical, I often say, act like the manager at PwC, write a memo to the partner.
That little golden nugget tip for you.
Absolutely.
There, I think that's very good. So I like to think, as I said, these 3 aspects of pausing, stopping, and resetting. You've done that FD role, I'm sure, with advising entrepreneurs, capital raising. We've got all these things, that RAG spreadsheet, sort of mission control mindset.
Yep.
Which of those is hardest for you? Are you a guy that can stop things? Are you a guy that can take a pause? Like, which is the hardest of those 3 aspects of life and business for you?
Probably stopping. I can pause. I know how to take breaks. My wife and I take a month out every summer to go back to Vancouver. We take a long weekend every quarter to do a city break. We take a long weekend every 3 weeks to go visit our grandkids who live on the Isle of Wight. So I can do the pause. Yeah. I think it's the stop. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm nodding away because I think you and I are kindred souls, but this is a charming. This is the partner version. I'm sort of the junior monkey version working on. And do you find when you're out, say, the Isle of the Wight, that I know you've worked with credible entrepreneurs like Dan and others over the years, that you see something and your brain still sparks, or you can actually completely shut off for the 2 days? No,
my brain still sparks. But what I'll do is I'll do a quick voice note to myself or something like that. I did for a while, oh, hang on, I've got to go upstairs. And, 3 hours later, they're, where are you coming down? And all that. So now I'll just do a quick voice note on my phone. And so that I don't lose the spark that came up. But no, my grandkids are 3.5 and 1.5. So they're at a wonderful age. And I just like to sit down on the floor and play with them.
And that's what I say, though, that I love how you're owning that. I'm the same. And I had a partner didn't understand that. She's like, it's Sunday, we're having an ice cream and you're getting an idea. It doesn't need to be 5 hours work, but that capturing and leveraging it. And especially where we're going, I think, today with AI and systems, and then you understand that big picture system theory, then it's a whole different game for the entrepreneur and in life, right? But I love that you've got that.
The best ideas come when your brain is calm. When you're frantic about stuff and thinking about 9 different things, your brain doesn't have the ability to let wisdom shine through. When your brain is calm, wisdom shines through.
So I'm going to go off script, but I think it's a good time to do that. If we had the young entrepreneur, right, they're doing well and they're facing that cash flow crisis. One of our friends of the show, Dr. Ernesto Ciroli, not sure if you had a chance to listen to his episode. He was the amazing TED talk about shut up and listen, but he describes you're not an entrepreneur until you're at 3 a.m. freaking out about paying cash flow tomorrow, right? That moment of like, how do they calm down? Because I've been on both ends of it myself. I've also had the countless phone calls of, I don't know what to do, panic, like, calm down, because in that state you're almost unhelpable. You know what I mean? Even if you want to get them on the phone with the capital or the JV guy. But what would be your advice as sort of a wise soul in that moment for them to pause?
Again, calm down. And, I mean, if they're working with us, I don't want to push our business too much, but if they're working with us, one of the things we make sure is that you've got a rolling 13-week cash flow forecast. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night, it might be because week 14 is looking a bit scary, but weeks 1 to 13 are fine. Unless, bad stuff happens. You know, I've had clients that, they had a big receivable and their customer went bust, and, $100,000 that was due in next week didn't come. And then, then you've got to figure it out.
Yeah, part of I think what
you can figure it out.
Well, sometimes the figuring out is it's dead. I've had there's some people you and I know where their amazing business had one of those recently, and 150K receivables not coming in that you think's coming in. That's material for most businesses, and there isn't a backup plan. One of my he's an amazing guy, went from running a printer, like being in a printing business, to owning it to several businesses.
Yep.
They had one client that was and it was growing and scaling until after 3 years, suddenly that $500,000 receivable didn't show up. And as you say, you handle it, but it's hard. So I love that thing about the cash flow forecast. We're not going too accountancy on you today, but it's the thing that most accountancy softwares don't do. I love you guys, Xero, but you're not like a cash flow forecast system. And MS Money, if ever I could talk to the guys at Bill Gates World and Microsoft, they had MS Money. Remember MS Money back in the day? And they killed it off. I spoke to the biz dev and I went, now we're killing it. I'm like, but it's amazing. So
It was. I had the first 10 years, the first 10 years of my managing personal finance was on MS Money. It was a great application, and I was gutted when it finally got dead.
It's where business decisions are quite weird, right? I love that I don't need to talk about this stuff, but I remember literally going, just do this web-based, and the guy was like, no, we're just killing it off. And I'm like, but now us today would have gone, damn, let's raise some money and acquire it. And also that's hassle and work, and it's all fun. So if you go back, a question I'm sure you've come across before, what's the lesson you wish you could send back to that 18-year-old David, the 16-year-old David? What do you wish you could to send to him or to your grandkids or your great grandkids? What do you wish the one David nugget they need to know?
Stop stressing about mapping out your life at the age of 16 or 18. Your life will pan out, and it'll, if you keep an open mind and work hard, it'll work out. It'll be all right. If you end up going down a particular route at university and then you get into that work and you decide you hate it, okay, fine. So you've spent some time and money going to university. It's not the end of the world. You can take something from what you've learned and apply it to something else. So don't feel that you have to lock yourself down, when you're 16 or 18 years old. I always knew I was going to do something financial because I'm good with numbers. I always have been. When I was 7 or 8 years old playing, Monopoly or anything like that, my friends always said, David, you be the banker, because they knew I could look after it and I wouldn't steal the money.
I like it. Do you ever actually think of going into banking, the David B Horne private bank? Have you opened one of those or sometimes thought about it?
Well, my first job when I was still at university was with the Royal Bank of Canada. And I had intended on going into a career with them. And in my third summer working with them, I got a phone call from the branch manager where I'd been for 2 years. And he said, look, the country's in a deep recession. They've frozen the management training program. I have no idea when it's going to be available. And he looked at me and he said, and this was the first piece of career advice anyone ever gave me. He said, I'll give you a job as a bank teller, but David, you didn't go to university to be a bank teller, did you? So I went up to the campus recruitment office at my university, and the accounting firms were doing their milk round about a month later. And here we are.
The rest is history. That's a great example of the pivot. And again, I'm going to go accountancy because I'm sort of showing off for a fellow accountant. It's called the sunk cost fallacy, right? Like I put that time in. It's one of my worst kryptonites of like, but it's a good idea. And it's like, but would you do it again today? But we've done that in the past. And so many of us, I think, I'm 48 now. The world is not how it was 25 years ago, but also we're not yet jumping ahead to the new world, and it keeps changing, and it's a really fascinating time in that regards.
As we were saying before the show started, Simon, I think we're at a massive crossroads with what's going on in the world of AI, and nobody quite knows where it's going. And there's all of a sudden bad stuff coming in. I've read stuff about mythos and things like that, and I mean, the technology is mind-blowing. Several people, Dan included, have said this is the equivalent of electricity 100 years ago. It is going to change everything, but we don't yet know how.
Well, I'll tell you the thing that I'd tell Dan if he was listening to me, because he doesn't not, but he's busy. And this is, we haven't mentioned who Dan is. Dan could be anybody. It's a magical character. We love you dearly. Most of what's going on is not actually latest tech. So most people, retail, go, this is the new stuff. What they're seeing is usually 10 to 20 years behind what actually exists in government, banks, security services, defense services, skunk works. BlackRock had AI 20 years ago. You've got PLCs and like optimization theory I did on as university, but most on present to utility theory, optimization theory, etc. Fascinating time. Because also it's the disruption. We're not going to get into values of markets and my sense, but you and I know there are things that are being sold for $10 million regularly that my accountancy brain goes, they're not worth that. And my dad's a stamp collector. So it's kind of like, what's the value of a stamp? Supply demand until it isn't.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of fun. Yes. And so one question that pops up, that thing about changing used to be very easy, right? Before the world of LinkedIn and such, like you could sort of change your business card on a Monday, go to networking and be a new David. In the new world where everything is online and footprinted and nothing ever removes, how does somebody do that? I was doing this, now I've changed. You know what I mean? Because so much people go, I know you, David, you were doing tax things in Monaco for 5 years. I've met you before. Any thoughts on that, given what you've been around?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of LinkedIn is you can change your headline section, you can change your profile section, maybe the career experience and things. And I wasn't actually doing tax in Monaco, but if I had, it would be in there. But it would be far enough down my profile that someone would have to be really, scrolling in to check it out. Most of the time, people go onto your LinkedIn, they look at your headline, they'll look at your about, they might look at your featured section, and then they'll decide, is this someone who's interesting? Maybe if you're applying for a job, it's different because they're going to go and drill into that. But no, I think we live in a fast moving world. Move with it. Don't get hung up on, I've still got on my LinkedIn that I launched a wine business.
Well, and that's I think because you and I come from a similar business philosophy world of be real. And I keep banging this drum, by the way. Eventually somebody might listen to me. Substance over form, not form over substance. And unfortunately, most of the world operates the other one, which is, well, the website says and the contract says. And one of my lovely American friends has found out how he can launch 100 new companies and website verticals in 5 minutes with AI. And I'm very excited for him, and also just going, no, because it's like it's what used to sort of prove the value. So no, it's an interesting question about what's real and also going through it, but 100% keep going forward. And I'm now going to go backwards though for a second. I learnt from books and movies, and one of my sort of happy places was reading a lot as a kid and watching movies. Although I'm making a podcast, I tend not to be a great podcast consumer, but I love watching movies and that creativity stuff. Are there any books and movies that have helped you through your resets, your Dark Night to the Soul, those challenging times, ones that that made a big difference? I know our friend Dan again goes, it's not what you read, it's what you write. I get that. I've written the books, but are there any that you've read that you'd go, that book was a game changer for me?
Well, actually one of them, which was Dan's first book, Entrepreneur Revolution. Love it.
Really good book. Yeah.
It's now in its third edition. I tend to watch films more for escape than anything else. So my two favorite movies, both happen to be prison break movies. One is The Shawshank Redemption, and the other one is The Great Escape.
Beautiful movies. Beautiful movies. What do you get from those? Sort of, they're both, by the way, if you haven't seen them, definitely worth a watch. I'm just curious what again, in that sort of modeling world, the NLP world, right? What's the bit that you get from watching those?
Well, like I mean, I first came across The Great Escape when I was in my teens, and having been studying in history all about World War II, to then watch a film about British and American and Canadian and Australian POWs breaking out of a camp en masse just sounded really appealing, and I thought it was
Yeah.
a very entertaining film. I've probably seen it 100 times. And then Shawshank, I liked because I saw that first, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. So I was much more mature and all that. And I loved the development of the characters. I thought the characters in Shawshank were excellent, and the way they all panned out. It was, yeah, it was a great film. I also love Star Trek movies.
We're going to keep Star Trek is good, science fiction, Babylon 5, My Happy Places. I think what's fascinating when I look back at like The Great Escape, those kind of things went on. And I don't think if you like trapped many of us today, the YouTubers, and said, have fun, I don't think it's going to work out the same way.
No,
I don't know how they were so clever.
Tunnel down 30 feet, tunnel across 300 feet, escape into the woods or almost into the woods. I don't want to do too much of a spoiler alert. And
yeah, amazing time, amazing movies, and Shawshank especially was very good at the unexpected twist. So that thing about don't giving up hope, and the I don't know if you ever read it, the Viktor Frankl book, The Man's Search for Meaning. It's sometimes it is the what matters out of the entrepreneur journey. I'd call it not just revolution, but a roller coaster, right? I think that's another book to be written. There's the roller coaster.
The thing that I love the most about the Viktor Frankl book was when he said, it doesn't matter what, well, I think the way he wrote it was between something happening and you responding, there is a space. And now he was in a POW, or sorry, he was in a Nazi concentration camp. So, life expectancy wasn't very good, and horrible things were done. But he realized that no matter what they did, it was free for him to decide how does he react.
Yeah.
And that demonstrates the power of the human mind.
And I'm still white belt in that regard. I try to be a black belt, and then the universe goes, "Are you sure?" Well, we go, okay, back to one again. What has helped you through the challenging times? Because obviously, with your clients, with your life, you go through business, right? For all the big mega brain PwC 20-year-old I thought we can do without the problems. I don't know anybody that's had it without the problems. There's always some problem that happens. What helps you through? Is it family, friends, your partner? What gets you through the dark times?
Yeah, family. My wife in particular, but family. Yes, absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
Thank you for lending us David today in the background, wife. So
having someone that you can go to and be totally open and vulnerable. We all learn to put on wonderful faces and, oh yeah, it's great when your life is crumbling behind you. Having someone that you can go to and say, oh my God, my life is crumbling around me, help, is a very powerful thing. And it's also something that at a very human level, the person that you go to, if you have a relationship with them, endears you to them because you're opening up to them and asking them for help.
I love how clearly you say it. And again, going back to why haven't we seen more of David? Hopefully we'll do more of that. He is a KPI. We need more Davids out there. And what comes to me when you say that, it's something we've reflected on in various circles over the years. It used to be we had like friends and business, and they weren't the same. Does that make sense? Yeah. It was like, that's the business networking, that's the social network, it blends. So many people, when you sort of have a problem, they jump into, well, have I got a solution for you? That one that sort of, one of a dear friend in America, she's really awesome, but as she said herself, she's always in work mode. So when somebody's going, I've just had this problem in my relationship, or I've got this health challenge, she goes into coach closing mode. How do they navigate that? And also, because you've been around the block a lot, as we would say, how do they discern safe to share with versus not safe to share with? You know, it's a very small world out there, right? We all want to like not vent, but be able to go, this is what's actually going on.
Yeah.
I'm part of a founders group today. There's an amazing guy, great project. But if he was trying to raise capital or do business, what he shared has made him a target for your company's worth nothing, give it everything for a dollar. You know what I mean? Like he's going, So how does that, you know what I'm asking about? Like, how do they know what's safe and navigate?
I mean, the first thing is, you know, what's the quality of your relationship? How much trust is there in your relationship? You know, if it's your best friend that you've, you know, gone to school with, gone to university with, you've known each other for 20, 30, 40 years, you can open up and be yourself completely. Whereas, you know, as you say, you know, if I'm talking to an investor and it's like, well, I've got these problems in my business. No, you don't do that. The problems will come up during due diligence, but you manage that process. So it's about the quality of the relationship and the trust that you have with that person. And what I've discovered is in my business connections, there are some people where that's easier than there are with other people. You know, there are some things where I'm happy to have certain conversations with a client or with a supplier or a contractor, but I'm not necessarily willing to open up with them. But someone else, I am willing to open up with. So it's kind of, you know, using your best judgment, taking a view on the quality of the relationship. How much do you trust this person? And if you're not sure, go softly at first. Open up a little bit. Don't let your heart bleed out onto them or vomit out onto them. You know, just open up a little bit and see how they respond. And if they respond positively and you feel that that's good, open up a little bit more.
It's the thing I think that's hardest, especially in the UK right now. America's slightly different. The UK is a very, very small circuit for entrepreneurship. It doesn't seem like it is, but actually it really is. And even in the States, it's small worlds, but it's what I've had a lot of is feedback coming back that they didn't realize the person they were sharing in confidence was talking to somebody else in the coaching group. And actually there's, you know, the classic one is this guy's parents are the people over here with different surnames, and it's the same. It's not quite this, you know, the classic. It's a safe space, David. Share away. You're like, no, it's not. It's kind of like the doctors that have too much alcohol, or the accountants with gambling issues. It never happens. We're all accountants. It's all good. We're having fun. I'm enjoying this a lot. For somebody listening in who's looking to shift what's happening in their life, right? They've done well. They're looking to actually say leverage this upcoming reset, changes going on. What would be your sort of top 1 or 2 tips to help them reset what's going on in life and business?
Take your time, and if you've launched businesses before, you'll understand what the process is. If you haven't launched businesses before, take your time and learn the industry. You know, one of the things I often say to people who say, oh, I'm thinking of going out on business on my own, and we get into a conversation and they've never been in business or they've never been in that industry or whatever, go and work for someone else for a year and make your mistakes and learn on their payroll, and then go and launch whatever it is that you want to do. But yeah, take your time. Again, it comes back to the advice to the 18-year-old. It's not set in stone. You can pivot, you can twist, you can make changes. So yeah, take your time. Going out and starting your own business is the most wonderfully rewarding thing, but it's also the most challenging thing I've ever done.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think the rule book today, based on the last 200 years of business, isn't quite the rule book for tomorrow. It's a very, very strange time.
It is.
And that there was always a big philosophy change between the British one, which was bootstrap, and the American guys I met that were like, put the board of advisors in, raise the capital to raise the capital. And they were very like, not enemies, but they couldn't both be right. You know what I mean?
Correct.
What's somebody is going, you know what, David, I hear the concerns. I want to start a business. Apart from go read The Entrepreneur's Revolution, go read some of Dan's books and other books. Or one of your books, actually, I'm guessing Add Then Multiply would be great. What would be your first, like their first homework? You know, they've paid the fee, or the government's gone, David, every UK person, they're all paying you $1,000. They're paid. What's their first homework today?
I would say, and I have actually said this to someone who I've mentored, go out and talk to 100 potential customers. Find out exactly what they want. Tell them what you're thinking about. Tell them you're thinking of doing this, and go out and talk to them. And a lot of people say, oh, well, I could do it online, or I could do it on email or whatever. No, go and meet them. Go and talk to them and sit down and have a conversation and look them in the whites of the eye and ask for their opinion. What are they thinking? There's nothing like feedback from the marketplace for deciding. I know so many people who say, oh, I've got the most amazing idea, it's fantastic, but I'm not going to share it with anybody because someone might steal it. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Ideas are cheap. If you've got an idea, take it out to people that you know. Go to your friends. Go to your friends' parents if you want to, whatever. But go and talk to people and say, hey, this is my idea. What do you think? Get their honest feedback.
Yeah.
Before you go out and spend a lot of money building a website, and nobody orders business cards anymore, but that was always the one that it used to be. Oh, yeah, I've got my business cards. Well, so what?
Yeah, I'm going to jokingly say I'm not completely sold on ideas are cheap, but I know what you mean by it, right? There's a world where an idea can be worth billions, but also there's lots of new ideas is the point, right? And it's the execution
of the good ideas that are worth billions.
Yeah. Well, and also who you're talking to, right? It's like the old the shampoo one about rinse and repeat. You know that one?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm with you on the conversation. And ironically, one of my favorite SaaS guys in the States, that's how he launched his SaaS, is literally go talk to 100 people before he'd ever do any line of coding, anything at all. Yeah. And I know for every 1,000 people he tells that to, maybe 2 do. Because actually doing those 100 phone calls, having 100 conversations is really quite hard. We have to wrap up, and I feel really annoyed at myself because this is one of those learn more about David days, and there's a lot more to learn about David. We'll sort of start at the end and then go back. If they want to learn more about you, David B Horne, what's the best way of them doing that? How do they find out more about David World?
Two things. So number one, on LinkedIn, and unremarkably, it's David B Horne on LinkedIn. And the other one is go to my website, which is addthenmultiply.com.
And maybe you could just touch on that a bit. Like at the moment, who's your ideal client for Add Then Multiply? Because you're busy, right? From what I know about you, you're not doing nothing. You have a portfolio of interests and things you're working on. Are you open for more clients? They're listening in and want to work with David, or not really?
I'm open for more clients. My ICP, my ideal client persona, is an entrepreneur-led business. So I only work with entrepreneurs. I did my corporate time. I only work with entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for entrepreneurs who are turning over kind of between 2 and 10 million, who know that they've got something that they can scale faster or scale bigger, but they don't know how. And they've been grinding it out, and organic growth has been good, but it's slowing down and it's getting harder, and the competition's out there, and they're open-minded to something that's quite different, which is called FACE, Fund, Acquire, Consolidate, Exit.
Yeah.
In the book, Add Then Multiply, quick plug, there is a case study of the first PLC that I was a co-founder of. We grew that business from 1 million to 25 million in 3 years.
Wow. And that was through acquisitions? And
that was through acquisitions.
Yeah. I need to get you
and some organic growth, but yes.
I've got to get you and my friend Philip together. He did over 200 acquisitions into a group. I won't mention which one. Yeah, no, it is. It's like that roll up was aggressive, but it also made the other thing then possible. And
exactly,
you get that learning experience. Not many have done that stuff that you're talking about.
So I do the acquisitions, or also, if you've decided actually it's time for me to move on, and you want to sell your business. If you're serious about selling your business and you're serious about maximizing the value of selling your business, it's going to take 2 to 3 years, but we will work with you to help you build that so that you've got something that's saleable. And then we've got partners that we work with who specialize in the actual sale process.
Very exciting, because it's a conversation that's being marketed a lot, and we know why it's being marketed a lot, because other stuff isn't working, so they're selling that. And unfortunately now there's probably 500,000 people across the world that have bought into buy, sell businesses and sell them. It isn't trivial. There is work to do, but
there's a lot of work to do.
You need a team and you need advisors. Is there any final thoughts, Dave, before we wrap up the show today? Because honestly, you have been a great godsend. I get where everybody loves you, and looking forward to getting to know you more as a friend in future. But for today, what's your wisdom before we wrap up the show for anybody listening in?
My wisdom as we wrap up the show. Life is a journey. Enjoy the journey. We don't know where we do know where it's going to end ultimately. There's only 2 things in life that are inevitable, and that's death and taxes. an accounting joke. But no, life is a journey. Enjoy the journey, even on those hard days, because everyone has hard days, but enjoy the ride. Have fun.
Awesome. David, absolute pleasure. The reminders about having fun, not getting stuck in the past and moving forward. And again, check out David's book, check out David's website. And David, thank you for being on the show. A fellow chartered accountant. We love PwC people. It's not personal. You're all amazing, but we love you guys loads. And thank you for being part of today's Pause, Stop, Reset. Bye for now.
Thank you.